This past Sunday, we were talking about Paul's letter to the Corinthians, the second letter that we have, 2 Corinthians 12:9, where he discovers something. He discovers that the power of God is perfected in the times of weakness. So Paul goes through the season of being tormented, and he said that God, in a sense, orchestrated those situations where he felt tormented. We don't know why, but he felt that. And so 3 times Paul goes to God and says, I don't understand this, God. I should get victory over this. And God says, my grace is sufficient for you. And then finally, Paul gets the whole message, and he records that in verse 9. He heard God say, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power, my strength is perfected in weakness. And then Paul goes on to say, therefore, when I am weak, then I am strong, and I will boast. That's the key word here we looked at. I will boast. I will celebrate. I will be positive about those moments that I am going through suffering or pain, rejection, discouragement, and all those things that we try to avoid or try to overcome. Paul says, I am going to boast in the moment of my weakness because somehow there is power there for me that I have not seen yet. Now, we can look at that and that can be so far beyond our experience. It's just really tough for us to get our minds around. But I want you to look at it this way. There's a power within. God has already put His very being, His nature, the fullness of who God is, dwells in you by His Holy Spirit. And so, because God has already decided to help you and me by giving us His Holy Spirit, the real key to living is knowing how to drill down into those reservoirs of the Holy Spirit's power and strength already there. And so, when God allows these times of weakness, when God allows these times, in Paul's words, even of torment, it's not because God's being unkind, but rather God knows the kinds of attacks from the enemy you're going to experience. He knows the difficulty you're going to have with people hurting you, rejecting you, wounding you. So God, in His big Father heart of love, says, to help you develop your drill down skills, I am going to let you go through these seasons of discouragement or wounding or pain or weakness, so that in that moment you discover my power in a new way. See, if we could get over our weakness, we'd get over our weakness. The fact that we're not getting over our weakness shows us that we've not yet discovered that part of God's power to address that weakness. So every weakness is an opportunity to grow in my discovery of God's power available for me. We simply have to trust, and that's where the Isaiah 26 verse 3 part comes in. To lean on God, to trust is to lean to the point of falling. In other words, trusting God means I've already made a decision to fall. Either God picks me up, God holds me up, or I'm done, I've fallen. That's what trust really means, not putting any weight on our ability to get ourselves out of the weakness or out of the jam. So when we're trusting God like that and fully leaning on God like that, then we can actually be open to fresh new releases of power that we've never experienced before. Brand new experiences of power that suddenly well up within us. John 7, Jesus talks about the Holy Spirit being a river of living water that wells up within us. Well, that's what happens. See, in the point of weakness, we don't just wait to get over the weakness, and I'm going to endure the weakness, and I'm going to endure the suffering, I'm going to endure the pain. But actually said, thank God that I'm going through this pain. Thank God that I'm going through this weakness. I'm rejoicing and celebrating and boasting that this place of weakness for me is an opportunity to discover more of God's power. See, here's the deal, and this is the last thing I want to leave you with. We have a hard time with this because we have been given a happy gospel for so long. It's like there's always a solution. There's always, we're going to get through it. We'll get over the pain. God won't do this. God wouldn't allow me to go through this difficulty. Let me tell you something. That's a happy gospel. What we need is a powerful gospel. I think the world is, at least in our world, it's full of a happy gospel. What we need is powerful gospel to where we can say, in my weakness, in my pain, in that moment of difficulty and wounding, I am boasting. I am celebrating that weakness, not just tolerating it, celebrating it, because I know that I'm going to discover a whole new release of the power of God in and through me.